Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach, and welcome to me taking a look at all the relevant defenders today. Now, I guess this video's intention is if there's a guy on your side that's in only a couple of % of teams, but you're interested in him, I'm going to talk about him. So, any player that's in at least 2% of sides or more, I always feel as if it's worth talking about. So, there might be even a few guys in 1% of sides that I'll mention, but yeah, I'll timestamp this video. Also, I'm going live on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m, so I hope you can get along to that. And if I, for whatever reason, don't touch on your guy today, which I think I will, you can ask me a question there. So, stacks of videos going on this week. I probably didn't leave myself enough time. It was like Saturday, and I thought, Jesus, I still want to do this video and this video and this. And I've got like 5 days to do it. So, there's going to be quite a few videos. So, hopefully that's good good for you guys. But yeah, the point of this video is all about getting my 2 cents on every player that anyone's thinking about. It's hard to cover off on everyone. So these last few years I've done these sort of every relevant defender or midfielder sort of thing. So let's dive in. I'll be obviously, looking at the defenders today. And just working from the premium status all the way down to, we won't be touching on rookies because I dealt with my rookie guide the other day. So everyone should hopefully have got along to that. And if you're interested in what I think on a rookie, it's all there. So yeah, I'm just going to go through and just, give you a little bit of insight onto a few guys. Whether I, will go with them, whether I've considered them, what I think of their prospects. So, hopefully, like I said, I'll timestamp it. So if you've got a few guys in mind, hopefully you can just smash it out because these videos can sometimes be a little bit lengthy. But, I hope you stick around for most of it. And let's get stuck into it. So, let's start right at the top. Jake Lloyd, he's been a star, hasn't he, for so many years. Me, personally, this year, he's just too expensive for me and there's just a bit too much doubt for mine. I think he's a guy that I just feel I can get a similar output for probably 100k cheaper, at Rory Laird. I probably think Laird will be the highest scoring defender this year. And the fact that he's tweaked his knee and didn't play a pracky game, it's just sort of the cherry on top. I just think, he's not a must-have. I think a lot of people will tell you he is. And he's a superstar, but I don't see him averaging 120 again. I know he has a couple of times now, but I just think there's a lot of defenders that can produce 3-figure averages, and we'll touch on them soon. But for me, he's just not a guy that I've actually had in my side at all this pre-season, and I clearly see him as an upgrade. So Luke Ryan, again, he's in the 10% of sides, and he's a really strong premium, no doubt about it. Intercept marks and takes a lot of kick-ins, but he's just not for me. Obviously hasn't had the perfect pre-season, missed a little bit of footy and whatnot. So again, for me, he hasn't done the premium stuff as long as some others. So I guess with those two ingredients involved, not a perfect pre-season, and the fact that he has missed or hasn't been a premium for ages. Oh, God. What the hell is going on here? I don't want to get scammed. What the hell? That was a little bit concerning, but anyway. Hopefully no viruses on old Shorty's computer. But, so Ryan's not for me, but I understand a few people going with him. Like I said, Rory Laird, I won't spend too much time on him. He's super popular. You could have him in the mid. You could have him in the defence. I think he'll be the number one scorer for defenders this year. Midfield role, been brilliant. Get him into your team. Lachie Whitfield, probably would have been my first pick defender if he was fully fit. And it would have been out of, sort of he and Laird probably, just outstanding prospects. But the fact is we don't have a clue when he's going to be back. And he looms as a perfect upgrade. Let's hope he can get fit and healthy and be back soon enough. But, real bizarre sort of liver concern or having trouble breathing, that type of thing. So, bizarre kind of injury, but hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. Of course, we know Sicily's out. Brayden Maynard, he's in the 3% of sides there, but I just think he had a great year last year, but there's just no need for us to start with him. He might be a good selection, he might, but he's had one really good Supercoach year, and there's just no need to take that sort of a risk, in my opinion. I don't think he's a guy that looms as a year in, year out premium. He might be some years, he might be touch off on others, but for me, I just don't see the need to pay that sort of a price for him. Similar can be said for Jordan Ridley. Now, he's in 11% of teams, and, he will take quite a few kickouts. He's a lovely interceptor, and I just probably see him as, probably the 7th, 8th, 9th highest scoring defender. I just see a lot of other guys in front of him, Laird, Daniel, Young, Stewart, Whitfield when he's back, Lloyd. So, you could mount the case for a Jayden Short, a Callum Mills if he's in the midfield, which looks likely. So, I just don't feel the need to start Ridley. Again, he doesn't have years upon years of premium scores. So, I'm just steering clear. Caleb Daniel, 26% of sides. A lot of people would have jumped on after his stellar pracky game. And look, he's probably the best decision maker in the game. He is so composed with the footy, just hits targets all day long, left and right, so composed, low centre of gravity, and he's a joy to watch. There's with good reason he should be in your team, and he's in mine. He's one of my absolute favourites. Now, Callum Mills, he was in my side in front of Daniel prior to him having a bit of a head knock, which concerns me. Any time a fella gets a head knock, I'm just concerned because concussion's just so tough to know how players respond. And with the new rules, whether he's even cleared to be fit for round one. He's in 3% of sides, but if he was fully fit, I'm locking and loading him. I think he's in for an absolute ripping season. Born to play midfield, going to get that opportunity. I really hope he does. So I'm really looking forward to what he can do. But in terms of starting, just a little bit wary because he hasn't done it before, and the fact is he's unique, and there's nothing worse than a point of difference player that fails, because if he's point of difference, you're one of the few that actually fails with him. So it's fantastic when pods work, but for me, I've taken a little bit of risk elsewhere. I just wanted to shore things up and go with a probably safer selection in Daniel, who's been a premium for some time. Tom Stewart, 18% of sides, and rightfully so. You're just not going to go wrong with him. He's probably not often going to go 120 plus. I'd have to look at the numbers, but equally, he'll rarely dip below 90. He just takes heaps of the Cats kickouts. You so often see him having high marks. He'll have 24 touches, 20 kicks, 4 handballs, sort of thing. So he's an easy watch and a really reliable premium. Jack Crisp is in 2% of sides. For me, I don't think so. I'm just probably a little bit off the pies as well. I mentioned Maynard and Crisp. He's a good player, a good scorer. I think he's about top end for me. I think that's about as top end as he's probably going to score. Therefore, I'm just not interested in paying the 530k price tag. And by the looks of it, not too many others are either. Blicavs, he's in the 2% of sides, so there's a few people out there interested, but he's just a straight up no. He's going to play key post in the back line for the Cats, which is fantastic for Geelong, much needed, not so fantastic for your Supercoach side. So for me, it's a no thanks. But let me just check that we are actually recording here. Yes, we are. Sorry for people's eardrums if I just clapped in your ear, but I just... the other day I filmed this video like half an hour and I had my microphone on mute. Ugh, what a genius. We'll bypass Haynes because he's just in the 1% of sides. And if we move on to Adam Saad, and he's a bit of a type of player that I feel like people are excited about with the new rule and that type of thing. New club, new rule seems to, spell a good upside for him. But I just don't feel the need to start him. He had a great year last year, but I don't know. I just don't see the need to start with him. I think he has a high impact on a game, but some days he just has sort of like 18 touches and has a few dashing runs, but he just doesn't accumulate, I guess. He's a high metres gained player, sinks the slipper when he can, and I think he'll have a good year, but history suggests he can be a little bit up and down, and he's just not a selection that I want to think about, really, because I just don't feel the need to go with a bit of a risky type. So there are a lot more reliable options for me. Jayden Short, now today I did a video on him. Really interesting numbers between him when he has Hooley in the side and when Hooley's out of the team. So if you haven't checked out that video already, it would have been the one posted just before this. So feel free to check that out. I'm not on board, and it's not to say I don't think he'll have a good year, because I think he'll be a quality player, but just not a guy I want to start with. And I go into a bit more detail about why in the video. But yeah, interesting numbers. Jeremy Howe, I definitely don't want to go near. People are sort of raving about him and thinking that, they've got him at a bit of a discount. But, yes, he dominated last year in the 4 games. Yes, he looked amazing. But they're 4 games. We've seen him and other players dominate for portions of time and have real top-end numbers. I think he'll average in the 90s, don't get me wrong. So maybe if that's all you want, then okay, maybe he's at a solid price. But don't feel like you're getting value. It's not like we're getting a guy who's going to average 110 at 5.17. I still think he's every chance to average early 90s, late 90s. Maybe he can ton up, but yeah, I just feel as if, again, I've probably bagged out. Sorry, Pies fans, I'm sort of raining on your parade here, but yeah, he's just not one that entices me at all. But clearly a few do. Luke McDonald, I am a fan of McDonald. I really think he's got a lot of upside. If you look at the back end of last year when he really made a genuine change to that position and was the key man out of the back line, kick-ins all day, just mopped up, made a really easy scoring down there. If you're put off by Zeeble going back there, maybe I understand that. Look, I like his prospects, but to be fair, he's also not a guy that I've genuinely considered picking. So it's hard to really talk him up too much when I've never really thought about chucking him in the team. But Stephen May, he's in 1% of size, but I feel the need to talk about him. Now, bit of an injury cloud, but he's a bloke who's really capable of averaging good numbers. I think he's one of the best interceptors in the game and one of the best kicks in the game. Now, that's not often a combination we see. Normally, good intercepting types, they're just, they're taller types, maybe not the best kicks and rah-rah-rah, but he has a beautiful left foot kick, which means not only can he outmark the best key forwards in the game and get you intercept possessions, but he'll also take the kick-outs and just, slice and dice with that left boot. So he's a real sneaky POD, and I don't mind him. I don't have the guts to go with him, but don't mind him. Sam Docherty, 8% of sides. Let's not go near him. He's been fantastic, but I think it's fair to say he just hasn't come back as the same player after all those injuries. Now, for a Sam Docherty of years gone by, that's a bargain, but I just don't think he's the same guy anymore. He's just not. He doesn't seem like he's in that exact role, or maybe he's just not capable of that role anymore. But yeah, I wouldn't be going near him, to be honest. He's always good for an average in the 90s for sure, but there are much better options out there. We'll be able to slide past a few more now as we sort of get by the premiums, and a few more will sort of look to us as well. Dan Houston, he's in the 5% of teams, and a little bit of that might have been off the back of, filling the boots in a pre-season game. He's not for me. And he burned us the other year, and that was when we thought we were going to see him in the midfield. Didn't happen, and didn't matter in the end, because he seems to just be able to average reasonable numbers in the position anyway. But I just don't see that ceiling. I just don't see why we would pick him at 490 when we've got so many good options just north. I just don't see it. I don't reckon. Just ask yourself the question at that price: is he going to be a top 8 defender? No way, in my opinion, is he going to be. And that's the only question we need to answer at that price, and therefore he's not my team. Daniel Rich, couple of percent, but he's not for me. Great watch, stellar player. He'll kick a goal from 55. He'll kick one of the best left foot boots you've ever seen in your life, but he doesn't really have the quantity he can average extremely well and he'll have hot runs every now and then. But a bit like Saad, huge impact on a game when he's up and running, but also has some fluctuations which see him, just not have the numbers right up there. So he's not for me. Harris Andrews in 2% of sides, not sure about that. Just shouldn't be. Same can be said with Jeremy McGovern, just shouldn't be. Great interceptor, not for our Supercoach sides. Now look at Zac Williams at a tasty 14% ownership, and that's joy to me because I'm going with him. Stuff your round one suspension, I don't care. I reckon he's a bargain at that price, and therefore I want to snaffle him up at that price because let's face it, if you don't start with him, you're probably going to be able to get him in round 5 to 8. You know what I mean? Like if he's an upgrade target, well, the fact is you're not going to get him at a cheaper price. If he isn't injured at any point this year, he is not going to stay at that price. And therefore, I'm going to cop that first week and I'm going to pick him. I think he will be a top 6 defender. Midfield role looks brilliant. It's what he's been dying for years. And for that reason, I'm happy to see him become somewhat point of difference. He was in like 40% of teams, I think. So, very interesting. Alex Witherden, I'm very interested in him in probably 2022. I think while Shannon Hearn's around, it's probably not for me. I feel as if, I've read a few things. It looks as if, maybe they see him as that Hearn replacement. And while Hearn's around, I think he'll play a bit of a secondary role. He just probably is still finding his feet at AFL level. I feel as if we want to see him do well and we see Alex Witherden's name and we get excited and he's had some amazing scores, what was it, 175 last year? So he's got it in him. I just don't think this year's the year. And even if it turns out to be a great year, I think we can justify not going with him because it's very risky at that price. Ben McEvoy, really interesting selection. If he was going solo ruck, then yeah, I'd strongly consider. Because ruckmen, on their own, and he's shown that he can do it, average some great numbers. But Segler's there, they really split that centre bounce attendance. So, he's not for me. I mean, it's a really unique thing that we sort of get the opportunity to draft a ruckman in the back line. But, not for me. As we make our way down to Liam Duggan, now he's very interesting. We're going to see a bit more mid-time from him. But I've just never really felt the need to consider him. And I think it probably does come off the fact that I'm really confident in a lot of defenders. I've mentioned it a few times already, but I just think we've got so many great defensive options that sort of taking a punt on a guy that's awkwardly priced that may or may not deliver premium numbers in a new role, I don't feel the need to take that risk. So that's why I just haven't gone with him. And, I understand it. I feel as if, particularly with Yo out for a reasonable portion, I get it. But, it wouldn't shock me if he averaged 90, but I just think there's probably better scorers out there that aren't that much more expensive than him. So, that's probably my thoughts on Liam there. As we make our way to Hunter Clark, who's very, very interesting. Oh, I'm a big fan of him. Massive fan. But I'm much more a fan of Hunter Clark than I am Liam Duggan, just as a general player, because I think Hunter Clark could be one of the real genuine midfield stars in the game. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years or even next year, he's a pure mid and we're thinking about him as a premium. You know what I mean? Like, I think he'll average 100 very soon, and it could be this year if he gets that role change. So he looked the goods in the Pracky game, but I've probably just got to revert to the same thinking that I did with Duggan. There's too many better options that I know will deliver, where Hunter Clark is still a risk. So, it's a real tough one. He's huge upside. If I was going Duggan or Clark, I'd definitely go Clark. But, he's probably a guy who's just promised, but hasn't just yet delivered. So watch this space. Brodie Smith, 2% of sides. I told people if they're in 2% of sides, I'd mention them. But there's no need to consider Brodie. Lukosius, probably not yet. I just don't think there's the need to go with him. He's a very talented player, but he probably hasn't shown enough just yet to be an out-and-out premium, and that's probably what he needs to be. I mean, you've got to ask yourself, if I'm picking Lukosius, is he going to average with, right up there with your Daniels, your Mills, your Stewarts, your Shorts, your McDonalds, your May, your Ryan, all these guys, because it doesn't take long to list off 6 to 8 defenders that'll go better, and then you've got your answer. Darcy Moore, it's a straight up no. Isaac Quaynor, really interesting type. I think it wouldn't shock me if he averaged in the 90s, to be honest. But I just don't think we should pick him. Super awkward price. Other areas in our side, that will take a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk going on in the forward line, which I'll talk about in a few days. But for me, no need to go with him. Very talented player, and I like what he's doing, but yeah, probably not a starter. And really, for a lot of these mid-price guys, I'm not overly enthused in the back line. I'd rather, keep it pretty straightforward. Ethan Hughes, he's a guy that people probably just getting hyped up in that pre-season form. No need to pick him. Dylan Grimes in 2% of sides. People, what's going on there? Come on. Straighten up. Get him out. Jeepers. No need for that. As we really start to scroll through now in what is sort of no man's land in SuperCoach, these mid-price options, there's so many blokes who just are irrelevant. James Harmes, real interesting. 344k mid option. I wish Melbourne played all their mids. I wish they were all fit in that pracky game, because I would have loved to see how they all fit in to that team and the midfield arrangement. I thought he looked really good. The stats didn't set it on fire, but I liked his role. It just concerns me, a game that we saw no Brayshaw, no Oliver, no Viney. I just haven't felt the need. Look, at that price, I'd rather take a punt on Caldwell in the forward line. You're paying the same price, but I just think, Hayden Young and Jordan Clark, as you can see, they're in my side. I'll mention them in a moment. I just wouldn't want to have all that risk in the back line. And I feel like the forward line's a place where we do need to take a bit of a punt, because there is not too many reliable premiums. So it's not an enormous knock on Harmes. He's averaged 95 before as a mid. Will return to that role. I see him averaging in the high 80s, early 90s. I just don't know if we're going to see him really reach the heights that others can. And I probably would prefer Caldwell, even though they're different position, but same price. Taylor Duryea, 2% of sides. That's got me beat. No, thank you. Aliir Aliir, again, that's just a pre-season hyper. Straight up no from me. I mean, I'd be shocked if he delivers, reliable SuperCoach scores, in that range. I mean, just keep scrolling. 40k down is Hayden Young, and he's a fantastic option. I hope he makes it. I hope he change of club. I hope it brings about a really good average, a really good career, really. But I don't see him as a viable SuperCoach option. Oleg Markov, again, a few people. I think he can score pretty well, and I think he'll definitely average better than that 65, and we'll see him thrive as a son. But again, there's better options. Wayne Milera, 2% of people haven't checked the medical report, or their SuperCoach sides for that matter, probably. What else we got? Isaac Cumming is a really interesting fella, particularly without Whitfield. We've seen Williams go. Heath Shaw's gone. That it's there for him. It's there for him to average good numbers. He's a bloke that's on a lot of people's radar. He's in 3% of teams, but I feel like there's a lot more people who have thought about him. I see him mentioned semi-regularly, but look, if Hayden Young and Jordan Clark weren't floating around, I would maybe consider. But I don't know. It's just, for whatever reason, I haven't really looked into it deeply. I haven't really at any point Googled him up super hard and researched him like I do so many players. He's not a guy that I felt the need to. But, a lot of talent, a lot of expectation and hope. Does get the opportunity, that we know. So it'll be really interesting to see. But he hasn't found his way into my side this year. And now we get to Hayden Young, a bloke that I've mentioned a number of times, and I think he's a no-brainer, to be honest. Whether Luke Ryan's in the side or not, doesn't worry me. We saw enough from him. He's just going to be one of the main kickers of that side, and that's juicy. Super talent, beautiful left boot. I think he'll still take a number of kick-ins, even with Luke Ryan in the side, just won't be as many. So I'm surprised he's in 14% of sides. I really am. If I'm flipping the coin between Clark and him, I'm probably preferring Hayden Young, to be honest. Only just, because people know that I've talked up Clark a lot. But, I seriously think they both should be in his side. I really do. So, get him in as far as I'm concerned. Orazio Fantasia, not in a million years. The bloke is inconsistent as a footballer, and his body will let you down in a heartbeat. I cannot believe he's in 20% of teams. Honestly, I cannot believe it. But, I get his value at that price. I get that. But, it's a massive no from me. Sorry. We're going to roll with CJ here. I mean, if Clarko can barely say his name, I am not going to try. We're gonna roll with CJ, and he's a real talent. Looks the goods, doesn't he? I think he's going to have a much improved year, and Hawthorn are going to give opportunities to these guys, but at no point have I felt the need to bring him into my team. I mean, quite simply, if you're looking at mid-priced options without sounding like a broken record, it's been Clark and Young for months. I've had them both in my team from the very first moment. They were both in my starting squad. I've been preaching him for ages, and nothing's changed. Connor Budrick, no reason that he should be in 2% of teams. And there's my man Jordan Clark in 40% of sides. Jesus Christ. If you don't know the backstory, I was spewing that Clark dominated the Pracky game because he was in 11% of teams. And I'd been on him all bloody year. Geelong supporter, I know what he's about. I know what we need. And he just had to go set the world on fire, didn't he? And now every man and his dog has him. But anyway, I don't hold that against anybody. But look, he's a lock. No qualms about that. And I reckon that just about sums it up. I think that just about sums it up. There's no real reason to talk about anyone else, I don't reckon. So, yeah, thanks for staying around. If you've stayed through the whole video, I really appreciate that. Feel free to let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed already, I'd love you to. Subscribers are sort of the best representation of people's interest, I guess. I love seeing the numbers go up, and it sort of gives me a little boost to think that people are really getting on board. So it's probably been the biggest pre-season for Shorty Supercoach this year, so I'm stoked about that. Stacks of videos coming your way. We'll do this same type of video for the mids, the rucks, the forwards. So I look forward to that and plenty of other content. So stay tuned. Like I mentioned throughout the video, I'm going live on Wednesday night, 7:30 p.m. And hope you enjoy. Cheers.